Well, when some of you are delivering or developing LLM-based applications, you probably know the drill. You develop, you test, you deploy. 10 minutes later, customer calls, it's broken. Now, before I get into that, let me give you some context. And I don't want to give you any advertisement or something, just for you to understand what we are doing. This is what we have in mind. Our day job is to free companies from what we call digital business work, right? If you're producing in Germany, your shop floor is basically full of robots, but your administrative floor is typically full of humans doing robots' work. And this is what we do. Just very briefly, we do have a platform which is basically a fast API application. We basically treat everything as if we are a model ourselves. We use some Qgen, some Postgres, some S3 storage, and we get kind of everything from customers, right? Dumps, databases, MCPs nowadays, the first agent-to-agent stuff. And we literally talk to any model as long as it exposes some sort of API. And we talk to any front end as long as it can talk to an API. And we can run on any infrastructure as long as it runs containers, right? So our day-to-day job is understanding processes, understanding data, and then most importantly, understanding user experience. Our customers typically come to us when they think generative AI will be a long game, so they want to invest quite heavily into bringing their whole organization into that, or if they have been disappointed by tools, because in a world where most people try to deliver off the shelf, we basically do tailor-made applications for companies. But enough about us, let's get back to the problem. Working like this means we have our users as part of our testing process from the very beginning. Ideally, users look like that and are part of the software development process themselves. And of course, we have tests, various automated tests, but still, back to topic, there's a call, and people tell us the AI doesn't work. In the last 2.5 years, since we've been working on this topic, we have found 3 major dimensions of these problems that we want to talk about. The first one is expectations. Sorry? You're absolutely right. Okay. The second one is functional. And the third one is operational. Now let me give you some examples of that, just some real-life experiences that we had in the past. The first one, and also the oldest one, is expectations, and that we are working in a world where the whole hype was created by ChatGPT. So we are competing, at least regarding inspections, with consumer-level API. It's shiny, it does everything, it works for everyone, and it always has an answer. Our reality, though, is we do work on a specific set of use cases, not on everything. We are optimized for a specific target group. And the reason why both these are true is we not only have to give an answer, but we have to give an answer that's kind of always correct. Right? Otherwise, it's not very useful for business applications. So still, of course, we need to manage expectations about what users can really get from a solution that is tailored to their data. Talking about data, second part is functional, right? The problem with functional is we design for a specific reason. We have access to a specific set of data, wherever it is. And then the user tells us, well, you built this service agent for us that our service technicians are using. It's really great. And now I ask it to do an email for marketing. And it doesn't work. So either data was never available, right? Because it was not in scope for what we did, or, and that's of course also true, regardless if you have some connection to some, in-company data lake storage, whatever, or some access to their CRM system or their ERP system, maybe it's temporarily not available. So that's the functional part. And the third part is operational. Even if everything else kind of works, we need to make sure that it works all of the time when the customer is using it. One example here is time, right? When you are using your coding system today, maybe you're used to sometimes minutes, if not hours, of letting your coding agent do stuff. But for example, if you're working in a hotline and you have customers calling, so our customers have their customers calling them and they want to give an answer, that is not an answer. And people tell us, yeah, well, it takes 1 to 2 minutes, so I can't do that much small talk anymore on the phone. I need the answer quicker. And we tell them, well, we don't understand on my computer, in our development setup, it is less than 10 seconds. Right? In this very specific case, one of the reasons was that, when it was running in the customer's tenant, their LLM provider suddenly had timeouts. Right? 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then we were out of the game. So, 3 major problems with, the tests are working, but the customer says it's wrong. The one being that we have to manage expectations. The second one, that we need to make sure that functionally everything is as expected. The third one is that we need to make sure that operationally it stays working. And how we do that, that is what Frank will tell you now.
So, as Thomas mentioned, our goal when we start a project is to somehow make the users happy using AI. When I studied informatics 25 years ago, our life as developers was quite easy. So maybe not easy, but it was predictable. So we had waterfall models, and we had something like a complete plan what to do. We somehow knew our obstacles. So it was like hiking with a map. We knew what we are focusing on. But the problem with that is that waterfall models sounds great for developers, but not so much for users. So typically we had our formal specifications, but they didn't meet the expectations of our users. This is why also some years ago agile development rose. So we had something which helped us to better connect to the users and to also make sure that we always can adapt to changing user demands. So it was more like hiking with a compass. You know your goal. You don't have a predefined plan, but at least it worked. Now we have AI and developing with AI. And it feels more like you're now hiking in a fog without a compass and without a map. So what do I mean by that? We have, instead of predictable software, we have non-deterministic LLMs. So instead of a predefined user interface where you know what your users are clicking or doing, you have something like a chatbot where people just type in whatever they like. And most importantly also for us, you don't even know what kind of data requirements you have because you don't know what your users are requesting. So your goal is that you are somehow a guide which leads through this process with the users. And you do this by giving them focus, create trust and transparency, and also ensure that the user experience is always great. So how do we do this? Sharpen your focus. Before we start coding, so before we start before we start writing a single line of code, we start collecting real-world questions. So we talk to the users and tell them, okay, what kind of question do you or are you looking to get answered? What kind of answer are you looking for? So how we do this? Now, hopefully this works. I thought it's maybe more interesting to do this in live setup. So this is just a demo case or a demo data set, but what we collect is really like, what is the question? For example, what are the mandatory break times during your workday according to the Arbeitszeitgesetz? So it's a German law. Then you note down what's the expected answer. And this is also very important, but this is what we collect here. You also tell the system, okay, this information needs to come from this specific PDF about Arbeitszeitgesetz. So this is an example, but this is what we do whenever we start a project. We collect 100 or more questions with the correct answers and also with the sources where this information is coming from. So this is the first step you have. Then the second part is you need to focus on the most valuable feedback. So early on, you identify your core group of users, your project team, who is really willing to support you, who is maybe a power user later on, and you work with them very closely. And you tell them, okay, this is a joint cooperation between us. And whenever you use our for example, chatbot, we collect the data. So what we do is we tell them, okay, you know what, we have, for example, like this dashboard, which we also share with the users all of the time. This is why we incorporate this into the front end. You can see, okay, there are a lot of messages, we have the ratings, and then you go with them through their feedback. And you tell them, okay, you ask for the specific capacity of an iPhone 17. You didn't get the answer you were looking for, and you noted it also down here. And then we try to explain, okay, why is this information not available, or what might be done to improve the quality of the answers. That's very important, and that's why we do this several weeks in the first phase of the projects. Then, and I think that's the next slide, for us, it's also very important to not only get the qualitative feedback from the users, but also to understand your bottlenecks. As Thomas explained, it is very crucial that the response time meets the user expectations. And for that, you need to understand what's really happening behind the scenes. And I'm not sure who of you is, let me jump here, using OPIC. OPIC is a nice software which we are using, where we trace all our projects or several projects, where you can see, okay, there are a lot of questions and answers where we enabled the tracing. You can see the response times is also for, or the average response time is for the chats. And what's more important for us, and this also helps us a lot with, when we are talking to customers about the performance, it also gives us an overview, okay, what process in this chain takes up how much time. And as you can see, okay, detecting the language based on what the user typed in, it's important for us to answer the correct language. It's not an LLM, so it's very fast, but we have this classification agent. It's a small model. You have your RAG workflow, and you can see, okay, the retrieval of the data is very fast, but the generation, I need to scroll, is taking up more time. So now you have the basis to talk to your customers and tell them, okay, yeah, I mean, we optimized our pipelines, but the problem is your LLM provider is not fast enough for generating the response. So this is opaque, and as mentioned, this helps us really to also understand where our bottlenecks are. So what we typically then do is, beside the profiling, we select different models, maybe running on a specific GPU server, which is at your customer site, or finding other models, and if needed, also optimize the retrieval process. So the next thing is that we need to build trust and create transparency. What do we mean by that? And I think this is maybe obvious, but it's very important. Tell upfront what you can't do. So tell them what kind of data is not available. Tell them what kind of questions you will not be able to answer, because it's very important that you reduce the frustration in the beginning, because everyone will be frustrated, because the expectation for AI can do everything is really in everyone's head. Tell them what you can't do. And then tell them also what you can do. And this is, I think, most of you who work with ChatGPT interfaces or with chatbot interfaces know there's some kind of sample questions so that people get an understanding what kind of questions they can ask and also how to ask them, because especially the RAG process needs some kind of structure to get better results. And then and that's also something, especially for the initial phase of the project, working with the core team, power to the people. What do we mean by that? We mean that, let's start differently. If you're working, for example, on something like a RAG-based chatbot, you start putting a lot of data into your systems. And the problem with company data is that it's a lot, that it's unstructured, that there's no metadata. So it's really a mess. And it's like, if you want to find data in there, it's like finding a needle in a jar of needles. So it's very similar, because maybe it's the specification of a product, and this is the specification of a product B, and the specification of a product C. So it's very hard to find the right information. And what we do is, and I want to also highlight that, is we provide, whenever we have, let's take a predefined question, whenever there is a question, for example, is the iPhone water resistant, we provide an answer, and then, and I think this all of you might know, we also provide them links. Okay, where is this information coming from? What you see here are the different, the specific chunks. I mean, this can be done better, but this is how we currently do it. And they can immediately see, okay, this is the information is coming from this document. That's the right document. But as mentioned before, the problem is if you have a lot of documents, for example, and you can see it here, you have iPhone 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all the technical information, it's very similar. And if now someone is asking for specific information, maybe you have hundreds of products, it's very hard to find the right information. But what we do, and what you also need to show to the users, because they really start to understanding the value of that, you show them, okay, we have specific metadata which we assign to your data. In this case, it's a product name, and it's iPhone 15. So whenever they have a chat and they tell you, okay, I don't have the right information, you tell them, okay, then please look, the filters we applied automatically, are they fitting this to the specific product you were looking for, or for the specific part you were looking or searching for information? And this, I mean, even if it's very technical, but it helps to discuss with the people, okay, what can we do to improve this? And what maybe should be done more explicitly by allowing users to set a specific filter up front, because this is done automatically, but maybe they want this filter up front. And this helped us a lot, especially because, and we didn't expect that people asked us, I know my documents, why can't I just put in the right metadata myself? So this is also what we then provide to the power users. Okay, if you have specific metadata, you can assign it, and then it's also available for the automatic filters later on. So very powerful also for you to learn. Also important, and this is also about trust and transparency. I mentioned in the beginning, we are collecting a lot of questions, and we have a baseline when we start the project, and whenever we do a sprint review, we also share with the whole team, okay, this is where we now stand, we improved some things, and so on. So it's basic, but it helps, again, based on the questions you defined earlier, to also manage expectations. So, last but not least, and I think this is for us at least the most interesting learning we had, we were focusing on our main task. So something like, okay, we have questions, we need to provide the correct answers, we need to improve the rec system or the connection to specific ERP systems to find the right information. But while talking to the users, we also learned quite some interesting things, which also helps us to convince more users of this solution. And important is that you also strive for quick wins. For example, people told us, okay, you know what? It's nice that you have this specific chatbot, but what I need to do is I need to email translate. So I mean, we are all experts. I mean, it's the PyCon. Everyone of us knows how to use DeepL and maybe write some scripts for that. But for them, it's really like, wait, I can copy and paste my email somewhere and it formulates an answer in the language of the people who are requesting this information for me. It's like eye-opening. I mean, they are doing this, but it was very cumbersome. And I mean, it's trivial, but it is something we just provided. And there are similar examples like document summaries, text reformatting, or FAQ-based answers. If you can do it, and you can do things like this very easily with LLMs, just do it, because they love you for it, and they also then ensure that people are using the software. Another example, because it's also very nice, we talked to the company, and they were telling us, it's nice that you want to do this knowledge chatbot for our service and support, but you know what? We don't have the data. And we were asking, okay, why don't you have the data? Yeah, because our maintenance guys, when they do a fix, they fix it and they typically, hopefully, they then go back to the PC or laptops and then create a maintenance report. Write down what was the problem, how did you fix it, and what are the follow-ups. The reality is no one is doing that. So for them, it was really hard to use AI for maintenance reports. And we told them, okay, you know what? We just create something very simple. When your maintenance guys are driving back from their company, you just have a record button in this application where you just, via voice recording, you just tell them, okay, yeah, I was create a maintenance report, I was visiting a client, blah, 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 there was something broken, this is the serial number. And then we have a pre-formatted report, which is filled out, and then automatically sent to the backend system. And it helped them a lot. For us, it was not so much work, but this was one of the killer features. And this is a more advanced one, and this is also what you can do because the customer helps you to build up this metadata information. They had the problem that they had hundreds of products, and the problem they are facing is, okay, we have also hundreds of characteristics. So when I'm looking for a specific product, we don't have a product information system. And we told them, you know what, we have the data. If you are looking for something like this, we can build this quite easily. So now if you're typing in something like, I'm looking for a product with a mechanical sensor and silver context, which can be used in hazardous atmospheres, the system applies those filters automatically and then tell you, okay, now we only have those products left. Do you want to filter it? And then you can see it down here based on other criteria. So it's a product finder, which can easily be done based on the data we have. So I think key takeaways, at least from our side, is the ChatGPT expectation is real. Plan for it. So as Thomas mentioned, this is what you are facing every time you tell people you are implementing AI in a business environment. analyze what users actually ask, and we mean not only by looking at some log files, but by talking to them, and then build on that and try to figure out what to optimize, and really focus on this one. If there are quick wins you can do, just ship it, because this will drive the daily usage of the systems. All right, thank you very much so far from our side.
Thank you. Now we go with the Q&A. Just from the, how do you use the user feedback to improve the model?
The model, if you mean, or if the question is if we retrain or fine-tune the models, we don't do that. What we do is we improve the whole chain, the whole pipeline. So maybe there are some prompts we can optimize, or there are some filters we can apply, which helps us to even or to better improve the RAG process.
Next one. What is the platform you are using to see the evaluation question and expected comments? Did you build it yourself?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mention that. The platform is still OPIC or OPIC, and they have a very good REST API you can use. So we really love this, but the problem we are facing is that OPIC, you cannot provide another interface to the users. This is why we use the REST API to implement it here and then just get their results in our front end. So this is just another example I didn't show before. We have also some different metrics. For example, if we test automatically, this is also coming from Epic. From OPIC, we have something like, okay, we measure the source accuracy based on some RAG questions, or we have an LLM which judges the quality of the answers for specific questions. This is all done through OPIC, but we integrate it in our interface so that we can show this to the users.
How do you test for conversations and the corresponding outcome? Do you have an LLM mimic the user side with a system prompt?
Yes, this is also coming back here. This is exactly what we're doing here. So this LLM judge is really doing this. Okay, is this the right answer? Maybe phrased differently. Is there some kind of hallucination in there? It's also based on this specific judge which we use to analyze the results from the models.
Last one, I don't know if you want to reply. What is your go-to platform to deploy production-ready LLM application?
What we use is we use containers for sure, and we now have Kubernetes infrastructure for companies who are not willing to deploy their own solutions. If you like, you can use the same containers in your Azure infrastructure or even on your local PC. It's not a problem, but for us, it's Kubernetes based, and we're running this by ourselves and provide the interfaces then to the customers.
Another one, analyze what the user asks and build on that. Isn't it dangerous given how quick the market and the user experience and expectations changes?
And there's a famous quote from Henry Ford. If I would have asked the users what they want, they would have told me faster horses. And I mean, somehow it also applies here. When they tell you what they are looking or what kind of answers they are looking for, you need to be a little bit careful. But at the same time, you learn so much more by talking to them. So because sometimes they are asking some things, and if you dig deeper and ask them why are they asking for the specific information, you maybe find, okay, they are not looking this information, but maybe they want to solve another problem, and we can solve this problem with LLMs, which was not able or which were not able to be done before.
Okay, that's enough. So
thank you.
Thank you.